Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination on my Rumination News Network. I'm so accustomed to the other channel's name that I need to remember that this is the Rumination News Network that I have changed the channel's name to. Now, today we're going to be looking at the topic, St. Vincent joins the new Caribbean shift. Is the U.S. now controlling Trinidad, Jamaica, DR, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines? So we woke up this morning to the news that St. Vincent's election has already been had. It was held yesterday, and Goodwin, Friday elected, has been elected as St. Vincent's fifth prime minister. So this is what the news is suggesting. After decades of Gonzalez being in power, we now have Goodwin Friday being the leader now, the prime minister-elect of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the St. Vincent Times, and there was a brief article here by Ernest Cook, and he's a podcaster. He's also a senior journalist with the St. Vincent Times. And he's reporting this morning in the St. Vincent Times, in a landmark political transformation, the New Democratic Party has secured victory in the 2025 national elections, concluding a quarter-century period outside the government's central leadership. A quarter-century. Dr. Goodwin Friday, the party leader, will become the island's fifth prime minister since its 1979 independence, after winning a tightly contested electoral race against long-serving former Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez. The NDP's strategic campaign culminated in securing 11 parliamentary seats, effectively ending Gonzalez's extended political tenure. As the new Prime Minister prepares to assume office, national attention will focus on his proposed policy initiatives for addressing the island's economic and social challenges. Now, we understand based on what is happening, because when we look back in the year 2025, which is fast approaching to its end, where did the year go? We saw that then the Trinidad had elections in April, in which Kamla Person-Vicessor emerged as the winner. And we know that the UNC party is also the conservative party. She has said out of the blocks, that she is aligned with Trump's position and his worldview, his political worldview. So we know that Kamla's UNC is conservative. I mean that they're to the right, if you will. Now, afterwards, we had Guyana's election. And please forgive me if I've forgotten any other election. I know that we didn't have any Barbadian election this year. So in fast forward to September 1, I think September 1 was the general election of Guyana, in which Dr. Irfan Ali emerged as the winner. And his party is also pro-right. It's more conservative than progressive. Okay, he is more aligned with the neoliberal ideology, even though both parties in the United States and both parties, wherever they are in the Caribbean and Latin America, have to align themselves with the neoliberal ideology. That is the ideology coming out of Washington, and we call it the Washington Consensus. And almost the entire world follows that sort of ideology. At least any country that is allied with the United States, that suggests that the United States is their partner, they have to operate within that sort of economic framework. Very important that you understand that, and they can't even veer away from it, or we know that what is happening to Nicolas Maduro, the ships will be coming for them, and the fighter jets and the military will be deployed. The military personnel will be deployed to silence that president or to get him out of office, him or her out of office. That is the reality of the times in which we live. Very important that you understand that. And I'm wondering if you are understanding that on both sides of the political aisle, they play the same game. Different style, but the agenda remains the same. Es igual, as they would say in Spanish, it is the same. And that's what we have to understand. Okay, now we're seeing this Goodwin Friday emerging as the prime minister. Jamaica had its election on September 3rd. another right-wing, what you call right-wing president, conservative in the Caribbean, okay, under the leadership of Dr. Andrew Holness, right? And we know that the GLP is always aligned, has always been aligned with to Washington's politics. Both of them are, but historically speaking, the GLP has always been pro-Washington. Very important that you understand that. And I think that is where, there was going to be some shift when Golding, that's Prime Minister Golding, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, was occupying the office, but he too had to demit office at the instruction of Washington, D.C., because he was pursuing policies that was more in line with what the PNP were advocating for in previous years. And he had to demit office, right? We know that history for those of you who are Jamaicans, and perhaps those of you who are up on Jamaican history and political maneuverings, as it were. Now, after that election, have we had any other election? I know that the Dominican Republic had theirs in August. Yes, they had their presidential election in August, and Dominican Republic is a part of the Caribbean. They're also West Indians, Antillanos, as they would say in Spanish. They speak Spanish in the Dominican Republic, not Dominica, but the Dominican Republic. And President Luis Abinader won that election. And his party is also more to the right, even though historically speaking, his party was merged with what we call the El Partido Revolucionario, which was the Revolutionary Party. But his party, was merged with that Revolutionary Party that used to be run by the first Black Dominican. Well, he didn't become president, but because of the racism here in Santo Domingo, but he actually was very, very popular. Again, why am I forgetting his name? But a very popular Dominican politician. And he was Gomez. I think his name was Gomez. Was it? Yeah, I think perhaps it was Gomez. And he spoke how many languages, I understand? Probably 7, 8 languages. Very brilliant person. Was very close to Michael Manley's, right? He was a very close politician to Michael Manley, and really placed Dominican politics on the map because he was a proud member of the non-aligned or alignment movement, the non-aligned movement, whatever they call it. Yeah. So the fact of the matter is that this party under President Luis Abinader of the Dominican Republic is more aligned with Washington. Yes, they are. Okay, and they have expressed, we have seen very high officials from the United States politics, government visiting the DR. As soon as President Trump won the election, he sent the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to the Dominican Republic. Long before, well, I wouldn't say long before, but before he went to Jamaica and to Guyana. So we can see where the Dominican Republic is leading the show in terms of the geopoliticking, if that's a word, right? In terms of the engineering of politics, of US hegemony in the region. Okay, and we know that they are at the forefront of the war on drugs, of Washington's war on drugs. So after that, now we have Jamaican elections. So we've seen Kamala, President Predecessor of Trinidad, right wing. Presidente Luis Abinader of the Dominican Republic, also right wing. Then we're seeing Dr. Irfan Ali of Guyana, also right wing, and when I say right wing, pro-Washington policies. And Jamaica's Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, who won the elections in Jamaica on September 3rd, also right wing. And now we're seeing the election of Goodwin Friday. I would think that he's conservative. I would not think he is progressive as Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, whatever progressive means. Because we understand that Ralph Gonzalez might be more friendly. He's friendlier with the Democratic Party, but that is also an imperialistic party. We saw what they did to Haiti, among other countries. Okay, so we have to make sure that we're alert here. But I'm just showing you the trend. It seems to me when the Democratic Party is in power, we have certain prime ministers to the right, well, to the left. when the Democrats are in power, they are the ones who will be in power. So you have the Mia Motley's. Now Mia Motley's silent because, her preferred party, the Democratic Party in the United States, is out of power. But should they come back to power in 2028, then perhaps she will be loud and very recognized. Her voice will be heard in worldwide. But for now, she's not as vociferous, okay, and public as she used to be, right? And I'm wondering if the Barbadian election is coming up soon, and if it is coming up soon, I don't know. I think perhaps it is. It might be that she might lose the election, just like Gonzalez has lost the election. And the other party in Barbados, the BLP, the Barbados Labour Party, might be the ones to win the next election based on the trends that we're seeing here. Trump is in power, and we know that whether we like it or not, the US has involvement in the selections of our candidates, or our political candidate, depending on whether they're Democrats or they're Republican. And right now, we have what we call a conservative right-wing party in the United States of America. So we can see, therefore, that Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados might not be the preferred choice of Washington at the moment. Not that she is not loved by Washington, but her preferred party and their preferred ideology is not what Trump would want in office at the moment. For her to be, what should I say now, encouraging and diffusing in her country. So we see where Washington has that history of interference, if you will, in the region. And it's very interesting to see. I was listening and reading the statements of a political commentator in the DRS today, and he was commenting on the visit of the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to the Dominican Republic the day before yesterday. And he was saying that, this is what Washington does, and we can see that it is much more than Nicolas Maduro. But he's saying that the Dominican Republic needs to be alert and to ensure that Washington does not destroy its sovereignty. And I'm like, once you sign those documents, Washington would have already destroyed your sovereignty. Once you are sharing your airspace and you know that this is much more than a war on drugs, it has to do with regime change, it has to do with the control of the region and its resources. And I think that they know, they understand. And they just like Trinidad, the DR, like Trinidad, has a very close historical ties, to Venezuela. All right? They do. They do. So the fact of the matter is that for them now to be granting restricted space at two of their international airports, one I think in San Isidro, or that was a military base. I don't think San Isidro is an airport, it's a military base. And they've also given Washington restricted airspace at their international airport here in Santo Domingo. So the fact of the matter is that we can see where the trend is being set. The agenda is set, that Trump is aligning himself and ensuring that there are right-wing presidents in the region, in the Caribbean and Latin American region. And so far, we're hearing talking against Gustavo Petro of Colombia, whom he has sanctioned, and any other so-called left-wing presidents he is not necessarily fond of. I think that Honduras has currently a left-wing president, and I think she is, her candidacy might be up for grabs too, in terms of she might not win the election that is going to be held in Honduras in short time. Okay, so we're seeing now that there is a shift. There's a political shift in the region where I wouldn't say most, but a lot of our prime ministers and presidents will be right-wing. We don't have to talk about Argentina and their right-wing president there, Milei. Okay, so we can see here, so the trend is being set. So in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we know that their policies are going to, I can almost guarantee you that their policies are going to be aligned with Washington's right-wing politics. And very soon they might be sharing military bases with Washington. Well, if they do have a military base there already, I don't know if St. Vincent and the Grenadines have. And those of you who are St. Vincentians, you can let me know if there are bases or if there's a base, a US base in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Most Caribbean territories do have US military bases. Some are secret. So we just have to understand that. And what Trump wants to do is to activate them if they have been inactivated, right? He wants to activate them so that he can, start his wars whenever he needs to do that. Okay, so I can guarantee you that Mr. Friday, Goodwin Friday, is going to, I think it's Dr. Goodwin Friday, is going to be operating in Washington's interest. The trend is there. The trend is there. And I think that we have to be alert about what is happening in the region for us to understand that this is just it's not happening by happenstance. This is not just coincidental. It's happening because that's how it was designed, right? It's happening because that is what and how it's been designed to operate. And we have to now wake up to see that our region is being, re-imaged and is being taken over by Washington and the military-industrial complex. All right, that is what is happening in the Caribbean. Now, what are your thoughts on the whole election? The fact that Dr. Gonzalez, I think it was now time for Dr. Gonzalez to go, because the fact is that he's been there for years. Who wants to have a prime minister so long in office? It's time for him to go, right? It's time for him to go, whether or not we are in agreement with the current the one that has just been elected. It's time for Gonzalez. He's 79 years old. Why would you want to have another 4 or 5 years in office when you're going to be leaving at 84? Come on, you need a break. And how effective can a prime minister at that age be? So this is a good thing for St. Vincent and the Grenadines that, at this time, it was time for Dr. Ralph Gonzalez to demit office, as it were, and the people and their voices were heard, and they have elected for their prime minister-elect, Dr. Goodwin Friday. What do you think? Do you think that Washington will have her hands on Goodwin Friday? Do you think that he is going to be, he's going to be implementing policies similar to that of Kamala Persson-Bissessor of Trinidad and Tobago, Presidente Luis Abinader of the Dominican Republic, and Dr. Irfan Ali of Guyana, and Dr. Andrew Holness of Jamaica? Or do you think he's going to be progressive and he will seek policies that will benefit the people, the populace of St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Please let me know in the comment section. Please watch the videos throughout and ensure that you like and you share with as many people so that we can get truth and we can get critical analyses and spread it around the region, across the region rather, and around the world. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you in another video tomorrow, hopefully. Please have yourselves a great weekend. Until then, so long.